the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. 2 races featuring anyone and everyone who wants to win Sunday's Daytona 500. Dale Earnhardt Jr. won the pole, but now has to make up ground. Meanwhile, Bud Shootout winner Kurt Busch Double Deuce is looking for a double trip to victory lane. Every big name has one dream: to win the Daytona 500. Jimmie Johnson, 5-time, he will race in Duel number 1. With a newly paved, silky smooth track surface, 200-mile-per-hour speeds, drivers still figuring out what to do and when to do it. Today should be, as one driver put it, crazy nuts. And yes, that is a technical term. The anticipation is building. Let's head trackside for today's Gatorade Duel opening ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remove your hats as the Patrick Air Force Base Color Guard present our nation's colors. Please remain standing as Pastor Sonny Gallman of Central Baptist Church, Daytona Beach, offers today's invocation.
Let's pray. Our God, we're grateful for all of the blessings that you provide to us in our life, blessings like this beautiful day that we have. We pray for troops around the world who are fighting today for freedom. Pray that you'd keep them safe. We also ask that you'd be with the drivers and with their crews and keep them safe on this day. It's in your holy name that we pray. Amen.
Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome from Daytona Beach, Florida, Johnny Mayo.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight last gleaming, whose broad stripes and the bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
They are NASCAR's heroes. This is what guys were born to do. Guys like 5-time, the Dominator, Jimmie Johnson. It's NASCAR's most dramatic day. Now is the time for your favorite driver to show us what he can do. Coming up, the Gatorade Duel. It's the Gatorade Duel on speed. Years ago, they raced on a nearby beach. The location has changed, but the goal remains the same: leave the others in your dust. The weather conditions absolutely beautiful in Daytona Beach today, the warmest day we've had all of Speed Weeks, and that could certainly play a factor. Along with our champion crew chief, Jeff Hammond, I'm Krista Voda. This is NASCAR's version of an unscripted reality show. But, Jeff, we're not sitting around a campfire today. We are venturing into the unknown. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has a lot of unknowns.
He really does, and after what happened in that first practice, he got in trouble following his teammate Jimmie Johnson. All of a sudden, slow traffic. He gets hit in the back end by Martin Truex Jr. Both cars hit the wall. Both of them were damaged. He had to go to a backup car.
So we will be watching for Dale Earnhardt Jr. to work his way through the field today. But we have a lot of mystery, a lot of intrigue, more than probably any other year in the past.
Really, uncharted water because of the fact we've got a different restrictor plate. We got a new type of water system, a different opening. So many unknowns right now. It's really forcing these guys to have to kind of like dig deep and learn. Rick Hendrick said, my teams will be racing today because we've got to learn what it's going to take to win the Daytona 500.
So learning is more important than protecting your car.
Absolutely, right here today.
So they're going to be going for broke. Of course, Dale Earnhardt Jr. has two of his teammates, Mark Martin and Jimmie Johnson, Johnson in this first duel. Teammates, they always play a factor.
They always do, but could it be teammates or teamwork? You may be looking for somebody else besides your teammate to get you up through there. That's what Dale Jr. is going to be doing, because he's going to have to come from the back just like he's going to do starting Sunday. Even though he's on the pole today, he's got to start in the back when they drop the green flag.
Well, no other race requires so much effort. Now, as we've said, in no other year have we had so many question marks. Those questions are about to be answered. It's time to go racing. Let's return trackside for today's Gatorade Duel race number 1, Command.
Race fans, it's time for the most famous words in motorsports. Here to give the command, please welcome your Grand Marshals, children of the late Ed Schull of Gatorade Sports Marketing, Darnell Langley, Jeff Schull, Ken Schull, and Terry Delbridge.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
Kurt Busch, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Matt Kenseth, all in this race. Desperation about to intersect with destiny. This is the Gatorade Duel. You will see it here from Daytona on Speed.
Gas real quick, because I don't want to back pressure to open that system. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, man, have fun. That's what we're going to do today, man. We're going to have fun. We're going to enjoy ourselves. We got another one just as good. Let's go out and do what we do, all right? Okay. I don't know if you want to turn that second radio on for the 48.
A pep talk from Steve Letarte to his driver, Dale Earnhardt Jr. We mentioned teamwork. Let's bring in our team. Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, and Mike Joy.
Thanks, Krista. We know that Dale Earnhardt Jr. will start the 500 from the back no matter what happens in this qualifying race. But, Darrell, that means whoever wins this race will lead the field to the green flag on Sunday.
Just a little bit more incentive to get it done today. These races are very important for a number of reasons. There have been some changes made to the cars. The drivers and the crews are going to want to take a look at that. Where you start in a duel or where you start in a 500 is important. So pit road selections, a lot of things on the line in these two races. So there's a lot to be accomplished here today, Larry.
Watch your competition, watch your gauges. You're probably going to have to make a pit stop. This is going to get busy.
Well, it is. And as you said, Mike, it's 150 miles, 60 laps. We know these teams will have to make a pit stop, and they know how important that pit stop is. We know the driver is going to play a big role in that pit stop. In fact, during practice, we saw all of the drivers at one time or another practicing getting on the pit road because it's been about 3 months since some of them made a pit stop.
Well, what we're hoping to avoid is what happened in practice to Dale Earnhardt Jr. drafting off Jimmy Johnson. A slower pack ahead came up in front of Johnson. He lifted. Brian Vickers and Martin Truex got into Dale Jr., and it was Dale and Martin who ended up with wrecked race cars. And they did not get a chance to run the second practice in their backup cars. Steve Burns.
Yeah, Mike Joy, they didn't get a single lap in. Now, for his part, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was relaxed, joking around before he got in the car. They have run this particular car before. It was at Talladega in October, finished 6th. Now, Steve Letarte told me, the crew chief, hey, this thing is really fast. He said, but I'll tell you, if it's not, we got another one coming down from the Hendrick Motorsports shop in Charlotte. It'll be here tomorrow at noon.
2 150-mile qualifying races to set the lineup for the Daytona 500. This is what's on tap today. That's the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. The inside line will be set from this race. The outside column from race number 2. And the top 2 finishers who are not locked in by owner points will race their way into the Daytona 500. And then an additional 4 cars will transfer due to speeds and the Champions Provisional if needed. Let's have a look at the Gatorade G Series starting grid. Out back, Andy Lally, J.J. Yaley. Conway has to race his way in. There's Brian Vickers, Casey Kane, Bobby Labonte. They're locked in. Regan Smith, Dave Blaney has to race his way into the 500. Joe Nemechek, fastest Toyota in qualifying. Bill Elliott, his fast speed will get him in the race, and all the drivers from here forward are locked into the Daytona 500. They're racing for starting position and pit selection.
Let's talk to Tony Stewart. What do you say? Hey, Smoke, it's DW. You got us?
Yeah, bud.
You know, Smoke, it looks to me like things are lining up pretty good here for you, bud. The 88's going to have to drop to the rear, and your teammate and you're going to be on the inside there. Is that going to work out good for you?
I hope so. That's what the plan is for sure here. I mean, we've got the best scenario that you could ask for the team. So We just do what we can here. Try to get Ryan in his U.S. Army car and get behind him, get going, get this Office Depot Volvo and Chevy trucking right along behind him.
All right, buddy, good luck. Yeah, it looks like things are lining up good for you. You know, you've won an event down here every year since 2005, so maybe you ought to hold that off until Sunday. What do you say?
Yeah, no pressure, bud. No, thanks. We'll do what we can here. I'm confident. I know we got a great race car. I'm really proud of everybody at Stewart Haas. I got a good one that I'm riding and a good one Ryan's riding ahead of us, so pretty excited about it.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much, and have good luck.
Thank you.
That's Tony Stewart as we get ready to go green in the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. It's the Gatorade Duel at Daytona, live on Speed. Race number 1 ready to go. Dale Earnhardt Jr. won the pole for this race, but because he is in a backup car, he drops to the rear and the entire inside column moves up. So Ryan Newman will take the green from the inside of the front row. This is the ultimate go or go home day in NASCAR, because for 4 drivers, their chance to make the 500 is to race their way in. Blaney, Yaley, McDowell, and Conway, while Elliott and Nemechek are assured of being in the 500 with their qualifying speed, but they could race their way in to a better starting position in this 150 miles. Matt Yoakum.
Mike, we've already heard about team strategy from owner Tony Stewart concerning he and teammate Ryan Newman, but I had one driver tell me you can simply look at the next 2 races more like a game of musical chairs. When the music stops, you've got to have a partner, you've got to have a chair, so don't be surprised if the 14 and 39 drivers, if they lose each other in an exchange, look for Newman to pick up an old teammate, Kurt Busch in the 22. Dick Berggren?
Jimmy Johnson will also drop to the back. An engine change caused that. Johnson said he's going to go hammer down, try to win it. He can do just that. Johnson started in the back last year and won his 150-miler. Mike?
We'll help you follow along with the race to make the race. In the running order, the position number backgrounded in green are drivers who will qualify to race Sunday, not already locked in. Those in red, they're on the outside looking in and will have to move up to make the Daytona 500. Drivers already locked in the field will have a black background. Green flag, we're racing for 150 miles.
So that's a good match right there.
He was the fastest of those 4 RCR cars in qualifying last Sunday, and he'll lead the first lap of this Gatorade Duel race.
Montoya and Harvick are paired up, and then a lot of jostling further back, and you can see how those 2-car tandems are able to work their way away from the rest of this field.
And the unknown, Mike, is how long can they do this now?
We
trouble already. Newman.
Spin behind you.
Ryan Newman is going to stay off the wall after spinning off turn number 2 to bring out the first caution flag of the day.
My, looked like he just lost it, Larry. I don't know. Did he get any push or not?
We'll have to take a look because we know that his teammate Tony Stewart in the 14 was right behind him.
There was contact, and Newman goes around 4 under yellow quickly in the Gatorade Duel. Speed's coverage of the duel at Daytona is presented by Gatorade, the G-Series, Prime, Perform, Recover. And brought to you in part by AARP. Join Jeff Gordon in the Drive to End Hunger by visiting drivetoendhunger.org. And by ToyotaRacing.com Sponsifier 3. Sponsifiers back, and this year the winner gets a visit from their favorite driver. Enter at ToyotaRacing.com. Let's have a look at what happened to Ryan Newman and Tony Stewart. Watch that middle pair of cars through turn 2.
What happens here, Mike, is there's a transition over there out of the banking onto the straightaway. Right here, when Ryan Newman moves out, that car's a little free. Tony Stewart was right against him, and he just spun the thing out.
Yeah, you're going from 31 degrees to 3 degrees in a very quick amount of time.
Yeah, as he steps out right here, he's also going to step around right there.
Matt Yoakum.
Mike, no harm, no foul for the Stewart-Haas teammates. As soon as Ryan gathered it up, Tony Stewart got on Newman's frequency and asked if the car was okay and apologized for the incident. Ryan said, no worries, my car is fine. He came down pit road, got 4 fresh tires, and Stewart said, well, I'll be waiting up at the front for you. Newman says, don't worry, I'll be getting back up there soon.
3 laps complete. And the transfer spots, just as we started, Bill Elliott and Joe Nemechek. Steve?
Mike, just heard Mark Martin tell crew chief Lance McGrew. He said it will be interesting to see who will line up and push me. I can only push for 2 laps. The temperature's already getting too hot for me.
And you know, Steve, that was an issue that Mark Martin in the 5 had yesterday in practice. He said that even when he nosed it out to let a little air in that inlet, that he still was running a little bit too warm in a very short amount of laps.
Tonight, NASCAR Victory Lane does a double take for the most exciting qualifying event in NASCAR, the Duel at Daytona. Celebrate with the winners in NASCAR Victory Lane from Daytona tonight at 5:30 Eastern, live on Speed. Today's aerial coverage and that great replay we saw brought to you by DirecTV. Don't just watch TV, DirecTV.
Mike, we saw the radiator out of the 48 car yesterday when they were changing engines. Larry, it's not, they may be getting hot and they may not be able to keep them cool, but it's not for lack of having a big radiator in there, I can tell you that.
No, it's almost like, I don't know if I'd call it a radiator, I call it a water tank up in front of these things. But again, NASCAR has mandated the size of the opening that these cars have to have. And unlike the Budweiser shootout, when a driver could stay tucked right up underneath another driver and not have to worry about breathing it that much, that's not the case, especially as the temperature has come up as far as ambient temperature.
Now we know on this restart the pairings will be different. This is because Paul Menard has elected the outside. The leader has lane choice on the restart, so we won't have Mark Martin pushing. He'll have Montoya behind him, while Mark Martin will have Tony Stewart.
Yeah, I think probably that's communication between the spotter and the driver. The driver says, if I go outside, who will be behind me? If I go inside, who will be behind me? It's kind of setting up a little bit of strategy.
Daytona has been a great track for Menard. He finished, I think, 13th in last year's 500 and has a pole here. Here we go. Getting ready for the restart. 5 laps complete when they come to the stripe. Menard, that bright yellow car on the outside, is the leader. Green flag once again. Busch coming up the middle. He has Bobby Labonte behind him. Busch, the yellow car, now to the inside, the 22. And Menard and Montoya go backing up.
And that's Bill Elliott. That 09 car showing a little bit of muscle here in his first Gatorade Duel race.
Kurt Busch in that 22, Larry. Of course, he won the Bud Shootout here this past Saturday night. A lot of people like running with him. Really has a good knack for getting around Daytona.
Boys, we've got 3 wide, 4 deep coming off turn 4, and we're not even to lap 10 of this race.
What always happens, Mike, Larry, is there's a sense of urgency on these restarts. You can't let that front group get very far away from you, or you'll never chase them back down. So you got to take some chances right here.
Earnhardt Jr. started in the back. He's currently 23rd out of 24. Remember, he will start in the back of the Daytona 500 field no matter what.
And they didn't get that car on the racetrack. So that car was put together in the garage. These are the first laps that he's had in this race car.
Now look at the lead that Mark Martin and Tony Stewart has built up. That's because those two drivers have stayed bumper to bumper, and everyone back there behind them are mixing it up, and they're just able to drive away right now.
And this is a good test right here, Larry, Mike. How long can they stay hooked up like that? They're going to have to make a swap here from one to the other pretty quickly, I think.
At the front, it's a two-car test session, but from 5th place on back, it's the land rush out of turn number 2, and it's still 3 wide. All the way back. That is Elliott up on the outside. Pick a partner, pick a lane.
Well, you see everybody trying to group up. That first 6 or 8 cars there, trying to group up so they can go chase down Mark Martin and Tony Stewart up here leading the race right now.
Now Saturday night in the Budweiser shootout, no 2 cars could get away from the pack. So a lead of this size, 1.7 seconds, that's a lot different from what we saw Saturday night.
Now Ryan Newman in that 39 car, remember he was our first caution as we got a little bit of swap for the lead, and you can see how quick those two drivers did it because you lose a lot less time the quicker you can make that swap.
Let's show you the exchange again.
And this is something these guys have all worked on every practice session. Making the swap and not losing any time, or at least amount of time as possible. Right back into drafting form.
But in making this switch, that 1.7 second lead, it's gone. Because here comes Kurt Busch, and he's got help from Regan Smith.
But you're right, Mike, because they have been bumper to bumper. Even with that little bit of time it took to make a swap, they gained that much, and now these guys are getting up there mixing it up for the lead.
But Smith and Busch will make the swap and hold on to the draft. Here's Steve Burns.
And Mike, Tony Stewart is talking directly to Mark Martin via in-car communication. They planned exactly where they made that swap and when it was going to happen. By the way, Kurt Busch says, I have a fast car. Let's see how aggressive everyone wants to be.
Thanks, Steve. The second group, Smith and Busch, made their swap, and they're now back running 7th and 8th because here comes Harvick. And here comes Montoya with Casey Kane.
Larry, 2 guys that are really, really good at Daytona. The 17 car to Matt Kenseth and the 29 car of Kevin Harvick, and they are getting ready to overhaul the leaders right here. And these 2 guys run great here.
As the exchange is made once again between Mark Martin and Tony Stewart, the 5 and the 14 new leaders, still the pack. And the reason these exchanges have to keep taking place is the car behind, in this case the 17 of Kenseth, is not in clean air, and if he stays there too long, his car will overheat.
The 5 and the 14, when they were hooked up and the 5 was in the front, they were much faster. Once they made the swap and Tony got in front, it seemed like it slowed them down. So Mark's back in front of Tony Stewart in the 14 now, and they're chasing back down the lead.
I tell you, a group, though, that has gotten hooked up, 2 drivers, they are coming. It's not far behind this group. Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 car, remember, had to go to the rear of the field. He is getting a push by Bill Elliott in the 09, and they're content to stay there, running the lead pack down.
Starting in the rear of a race at Daytona these days, really not that difficult.
Now, if you watched our qualifying coverage Sunday on Fox, Bill Elliott's car was red. They picked up a sponsor and wrapped that car in blue and white. So if it looks different, it's because it is.
I think that tandem there, the 5 with the 14 pushing, is a good combination. They run better that way than they do with Tony in the front.
And I've got to believe that Mark Martin's car, as quick as it tends to overheat, his car likes, the 5 car, likes being better right there.
Well, I would say, Larry, most likely the engine package, the cooling system, and everything on the 5 and the 14 would be the same.
Since they both have the Hendrick affiliation.
Right, engine program.
Bill Elliott, we saw his 09 a bit ago. He is in the lead transfer spot, and J.J. Yaley, second generation sprint car star. There's his white Whitney number 46, a Chevrolet, getting an assist from Marcus Ambrose in a Ford. Yaley is in the second and final transfer spot right now.
We got us a good little group. These guys are grouping up here in the front. We got 2, 4, 6, 8 of them fighting for the lead.
Kevin Harvick to the front with Matt Kenseth, a Chevy and a Ford. Then Regan Smith and Kurt Busch, a Chevy and a Dodge. Then Montoya, Casey Kane, and Tony Stewart. Kevin Harvick and Matt Kenseth continue to lead here in Daytona. 16 of 60 laps in the first of 2 Gatorade Duel races. But the question is, did Tony Stewart and Mark Martin stay tied up for too long? Here's the replay of the switch, and look at the steam coming up from the windshield, from the base of the windshield on Stewart's car.
Now you'll see it, it'll come back, some of that moisture will get on our camera. But again, when Tony's in front of Mark, they don't run as fast, and that's a dilemma. Now what do? I can't run behind him very long like I am right here because I overheat, and I'm not fast as he is when I'm in front. So that's the battle you're going to fight.
Lead change. Casey Kane in his new ride for 2011, and Juan Montoya trying to take the lead away from Harvick and Kenseth.
But look at this group coming there. Look at Kurt Busch coming through in the 22, being pushed by Regan Smith, and that's 78.
And here comes Tony. He's going to drive. He's going to find him a new drafting partner.
Kurt Busch's car has been strong here all week. Went to victory lane in the Budweiser shootout.
What I like about Kurt's car, it seems like it really runs good once somebody gets up under him and gets to pushing him. It seems like that old Dodge has got a lot of speed.
I hate to say it's a surprise, but to me, one of the biggest surprises in this group we're seeing here is we're about 1/3 through this race. How about that little Regan Smith in that 78 car? We know he has the Earnhardt Childress engine under that thing, and showing a lot of muscle.
Well, you know, Saturday night he was running great in a Bud shootout. Got in a little bit of a tangle back there with the Carl Edwards, which eventually took out Dale Jr., but that car has been fast.
Watching from Kevin Harvick, Matt Kenseth pushing, and alongside the yellow car, Kurt Busch with Regan Smith.
I think if we keep, if these guys keep it in this configuration, racing like they are, a whole bunch of the cats that fell off the pace a little bit are starting to inch their way back in the picture. You can see them right back there. They're starting to catch up. Jimmy Johnson's one of them.
Martin and Stewart make the switch again, and they're going to get overhauled and passed by Montoya up on the high side with Casey Kane.
So, you know, Larry, Mike, it truly is right now a chess game. Got to make the right moves, find the right partner, be in the right place, and that's things that you're calculating in your mind right now.
Right, and don't let that rook go so hot you can't move it.
It's almost like Casey Kane in the 4. He can't stay really hooked up to Montoya in the 42 car. We know that tandem was bad fast when Casey Kane was leading.
Meanwhile, Bill Elliott and J.J. Yaley continue to hold the transfer spots, 14th and 15th. So their position numbers are green, while those of Kevin Conway, Dave Blaney, and Michael McDowell will be red as they come across the ticker at the top of the screen.
Now, unlike the pass down here, normally the longer you run, the more strung out you get. It appears to me the longer we run, the more everybody's coming back together into a group. We got a number of cars here that are catching up to the back of this lead group. We're going to have us about 12 cars, 15 here racing for the lead before long.
What you can see, though, Matt Kenseth in the 17, Regan Smith in the 78, they keep moving it out to the right just a little bit. Not necessarily that they're trying to make a pass, although Regan Smith looks like he needs to make the swap with Kurt Busch in the 22, just trying to get a little air into that inlet.
You know, one thing that one of the drivers told me, and it makes a lot of sense, you know how on the downforce track we skew the car to the right, get the right rear of the corner out to get some downforce. Here you skew it to the left, and that's why they keep looking out to the right-hand side, because the car's running a little bit sideways down the straight. Whoa, Montoya, Casey Kane went for a ride right there.
And Junior went all the way to the bottom, abandoned his drafting partner, and now it's a 3-car link up. Now Bill Elliott catching back up to Junior. Boy, that scattered him for just a moment.
This is somebody we've not talked about since the green flag. How about 05 time? Jimmy Johnson in his 48 car. He's been working with Almendinger in that 43 car.
Watch the 88 from the middle down to the bottom as things stacked up in the middle all the way up to Jimmy Johnson's bumper. Now, a pair of cars works very well here. Why doesn't 3 cars why didn't Junior just latch on? Why doesn't that work?
It seems like the guy on the back, the third guy, he's not sure what the other 2 are going to do. He's kind of like odd man out. You can get 2 guys working together. You can see the guy in front of you. Y'all can kind of push each other. You get a third guy in there. The third guy just doesn't know what's going to happen, and he falls off. Look at this.
Look at this for the lead. Casey Kane will lead this lap, the 22nd or 23rd of this race.
I tell you another reason I don't think that 3 cars will work. I talked to several drivers, and they said even in practice yesterday, physically I was wore out. My arms felt like they were going to fall off my body up there trying to control my car with somebody pushing me at almost 200 miles an hour.
Kane and Montoya on the inside, up high. Smith and Busch. Kevin Conway has just taken the last transfer spot away from J.J. Yaley. That's back at 18th position. Bill Elliott continues to hold on to one of those 2 spots. Elliott runs in 14th.
Regan Smith, I think he led that lap.
I think we're looking at Chad Knaus, the crew chief for Jimmy Johnson, over there talking to Mike Shiplett, the crew chief for A.J. Allmendinger. They've been working together ever since the drop of the green flag. The other thing, we talked about it at the top of the show, we know these guys will have to make a pit stop.
There's the Dinger in front of Jimmy Johnson. All trying to race their way into Sunday's Daytona 500. Closing in on halfway in the first of 2 Gatorade duels. Now Kurt Busch and Regan Smith have been leading. And the problem with this 2-man tango is that when you make the swap of position so that second car can get some cool air, you go side by side and your lap time increases by about 1.5 seconds. And the speed differential on the racetrack from the cars following, well, you can just look in your mirror and watch them go by. That's what Kurt Busch and Regan Smith had to do as they made the swap.
No, I think we've seen all week long that it's about 10 to 15 miles per hour when 2 cars stay tucked up behind each other like these guys are, and you're trying to overtake 2 drivers that made the swap.
Well, these are the conditions. The weather's about like I think we're going to see Sunday. I think these are good conditions. It's a great time to find out what kind of problems you're going to have, if you're going to have any or not.
Darryl, we were talking at break. The driver I'm the most impressed with that seems to be able to stay behind another driver is Matt Kenseth in that 17 car. He's been behind Kevin Harvick for a number of laps. He keeps breathing it, just like you see right there, but he stays tucked up behind Harvick.
I believe that Ford engine, a new Ford engine, might have a slight advantage when it comes to cooling, because I know it's something they really concentrated on in developing that new engine.
Dick Berggren.
Jimmy Johnson, Chad, and his sort of on-track teammate, the Dinger, have been running together for the majority of this race. Crew chief Chad Knaus just went back down to the Dinger's pit to talk a little bit more about pitting strategy. And what's good to keep that duo together is they are only 2 pit stalls away, so they could come in together, fuel together, and go out together. Meanwhile, Johnson has talked to his spotter to ask the Dinger spotter for Dinger to stay on the brake a little bit more. Keep them glued together. The lead car needs to drag his brake a little bit and run less throttle than the trailing car.
Thanks, Dick. 8 pairs of cars at the front of the field. They've just taken halfway in the first of 2 Gatorade Duel races to set the field for the 500. Bill Elliott is in a race-in position, and so is Kevin Conway, with drafting help from the fella he rented his car from for the 500, Joe Nemechek. They're working together to get Conway into the field.
And Mike, you drag that brake, and what they're talking about, that just keeps the car behind you from bouncing off of you. Once he gets engaged, once he's locked onto you, then you can stay off the brake. But until you get engaged and get a constant push, you drag the brake a little bit to keep from getting that bouncing off of each other.
You know, looking at Casey Kane up there battling for this lead, I think it's been well documented. This is a 1-year stop for him at Red Bull Racing. He'll be moving to Hendrick Motorsports in 2012, but he said he did not look at it as a stepping stone. He was excited about 2011. I think what we're seeing here, one of the reasons he was excited about it.
Great run for Kane, the big push from Montoya. Now they will make the swap.
Oh man, why did Montoya do that now? See, that's what happened. Maybe he's getting hot, maybe he has to. But nonetheless, they just got to the lead and they made that swap right there, and they're going to fall way back again.
So Busch and Smith go to the front. You know, if this happens all day Sunday, they're going to have to take that Harley Earl trophy and cut it in half. Give half to the lead and half to the pusher.
And I think it's going to be a deal just like we saw in the Budweiser shootout. We're not going to know till probably they enter the trial, come to the checkered flag, who's going to be the man on top.
Well, don't think that some of these guys that run this race before and been very successful here, don't think they're sitting there just kind of riding around playing games. They're thinking right now. They're thinking strategy. Where do I want to be with 1 to go, 2 to go? And how long does it take me to shove myself, get shoved to the lead?
Now have a look at this pair. Conway is in a transfer spot into the 500. Nemechek is not, but Joe is not concerned because his speed will get him into the 500, and the best thing he can do is help his teammate because the white car further back, J.J. Yaley, is the next car in line trying to race its way into the 500.
Not only is Conway his teammate, he owns that car that Kevin Conway's driving. Guys, you heard Dick Bergman talking about pit stops and pit strategy. We're probably only about 10 laps away from what will be green flag pit stops. Big load on the driver's shoulders. Don't slide the tires because I think most of them will go with fuel only possibly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Larry. Getting on pit road is going to be so critical that you don't slide that right front tire and flat spot it and then make your team have to change.
Kevin Harvick to the front. Kurt Busch trying to get there. That's the 15th lead change. One away from the record since this race was increased to 150 miles in 2005. Well, we had a record number of lead changes Saturday night. We're headed for a record number of lead changes right here. It is shaping up to be an exciting speed weeks in the Sprint Cup Series. Welcome back to Daytona. 38 of 60 laps complete. One pair has already been to pit road as we went to break. Casey Kane and Juan Montoya made their pit stops and chose to take on fuel only under the green flag.
Yeah, I think we'll see that pretty much across the board. Can't imagine taking time to change tires.
Kevin Harvick leads with Matt Kenseth. Jimmy Johnson and A.J. Allmendinger, the second pair.
We know down here testing, Mike, cars run 100 laps on tires. Didn't have any problem. Only reason you changed tires today is just because you felt sorry for them, maybe.
Regan Smith, Kurt Busch, and here's Junior poking out right through the middle. Takes Tony Stewart with him in that next pack. Off to turn one, they go 3 wide. None of these cars have yet made a pit stop.
Looks like we got Bill Elliott in the 09 car, Brian Vickers in the 83 car. They're making their green flag pit stop.
And the transfer spot remains. Now Kevin Conway and Joe Nemechek have passed Elliott on pit road. And Conway and Nemechek are in the transfer spots ahead of Blaney, Yaley, Elliott, and McDowell.
And Mike, what a change down here. I mean, normally you lived on tires. You had to get tires, 4 tires most of the time. Now that's not even, that's a non-factor. That's another change in strategy.
But a lot of that has to do with 2 things. An awesome repave that the Daytona International Speedway did here, over $20 million, but you got to tip your hat to the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company for the tire that they made for these guys to come down here and race on.
Kevin Harvick has led 5 times for 17 laps, more than anyone.
I've been impressed, Larry, and we were just talking about at break about Matt Kenseth has been able to stay hooked up to back of Kevin Harvick. He peeks out every now and then to get a little air. You can see him doing it there. But that 17 car has been right on his back bumper for the last number of laps.
You saw Dave Blaney and David Gilliland pitting. Now we're going to have about 8 of them, led by Jimmy Johnson and A.J. Allmendinger to pit road. Here comes Earnhardt and Stewart. Mark Martin with Ryan Newman. Dick?
Brandon Harder is going to put the fuel in it. This is only the 2nd time that he has fueled a race car under pressure. No tires for Johnson, who is gone.
Bobby Labonte and Menard also in. Matt?
And Tony Stewart's team, they're going to make a right side tire change for the 14. Meanwhile, the 39's topping off, Steve. He's going to go out with his teammate.
And Matt, a lot of different strategies here on pit road. You see Dale Earnhardt Jr. to the right. Fuel only for the 88 Junior, saying it's really important who you get off and off pit road with. Mark Martin leaves as well.
Now Joe Nemechek comes out slow. He was waiting for Kevin Conway, and that may prove costly because Conway's group had a slow pit stop.
Joe even moved over to let Kevin Conway in the 97 get in front of him where Joe can start pushing him.
That's a very good owner right there.
Yes, it is.
Of course, it would mean about $100 grand in his pocket if he can get him in the race.
Michael McDowell and Andy Lally have made their stops. Marcus Ambrose is in now with J.J. Yaley as Harvick continues to lead. 19 laps to go.
Junior looks like he's off the pace, or he's going awfully slow.
I believe he might be. Is he waiting on the 5-car Mark Martin? I believe that's what he was doing there.
Yeah, he was doing something because a number of cars actually passed him.
And the leaders are in. Harvick, Kenseth, Regan Smith, and Kurt Busch are all on pit road. Dick.
And Kenseth, like everybody else, is going to take fuel only. They're walking the car with the fuel to get the majority of it in.
Steve.
And Kurt Busch in the 22. He's been very vocal about how good his race car is. Fuel only for Kurt Busch.
I was a little concerned on the 17 car because the gas man stayed hooked as the car started to drive away. We were worried about them being able to disengage the new fueling can because of the way it fits into the receptacle. It looked like they didn't have any problem.
Here's another look at Matt Kenseth's stop.
He's in his box, and of course one of the things, Larry, that they stay engaged a long time here. As a matter of fact, Matt is out of his pit box right there, and they're still fueling the car.
But this is an unknown. This is a new product here, this self-fitting fuel can without the catch can, man. There's still a lot of unknowns about how it actually works.
David Gilliland has taken his car to the garage area. He is locked into the Daytona 500. The lock-in cars are those that have the use of top 35 owner points from 2010.
And you know, Larry, back in the day, the art of a really good gas man was he would catch that car as it was coming and he would run along beside of it, fueling it as it left.
And I think it was much easier to do with the old piece that we used to use versus this new piece.
Matt Kenseth now in front of Kevin Harvick. Here's some audio from Matt Kenseth.
We do, yes. Okay, just make sure you let me know a lap or two ahead of time so I don't run somebody over. All right, everybody's on board.
I think that was Matt Kalanoff, Matt's spotter there, talking to the crew chief and to Matt.
You see Casey Kane in the 4, Juan Montoya in the 42. Remember, they were the first of the leaders to make their green flag pit stop.
5 drivers in this race have previously won a Gatorade Duel. Matt Kenseth not yet among them. 13 laps to go in the first Gatorade Duel. Make that 12 as Matt Kenseth crosses the stripe with Kevin Harvick in tow. Then it's Kane, Montoya, Smith, Busch, Johnson, Allmendinger, and Vickers, whose running mate now is Bill Elliott. Matt Kenseth and his spotter discussed their current situation.
Hey, Mike, he's doing a great job, obviously. I'm happy if we did come out line, if he keeps me with him, I'm happy pushing him, you know, all the way to coming out forward to the checkered at least. But I don't really need to push. I don't need to be out front for any reason as long as we keep it going like this. All right, copy that. I'll pass it along here.
So, Larry, it's like we said, Kenseth was very happy just run along behind of Kevin Harvick. And folks, remember this: we talk about, you know, a backup car. Matt Kenseth won this race in 2009 from the rear in a backup car.
You know what I believe? I believe Happy Harvick's just fine and happy sitting where he's at now with about 11 laps to go, back there behind that 17.
Well, they've been those two have been a hard tandem to get around. You see here the 4 and the 42 of Kane and Montoya. They've made a run on the outside a couple of times, but they can't clear these two leading the race right now.
Back in the transfer spot, Bill Elliott in 11th. Conway and Nemechek continue to draft together, which will put both of those cars into the 500.
Tell you who's working their way back into this lead pack is Regan Smith in the 78, being pushed by Kurt Busch in the 22. They had lost a little ground, but they've got hooked up in a tandem, and there they are pulling right back up to Montoya in the 42.
Dale Jr. working with his Hendrick teammate Mark Martin in the 5. Brian Newman and Tony Stewart together again.
I'm not real sure about the plan that Junior had of backing up over there and waiting on the 5 to catch up. They are so far behind. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, they're about 20 seconds behind the leaders right now with 10 to go.
Now the fastest pair in Daytona are the Thunderbirds. Not the Ford Fusions, the real Thunderbirds, the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. They just put on an impromptu display over the track, 2x2x2.
Got a little bit of traffic the leaders are coming up on here, and that usually kind of shakes things up a little bit. Got to be careful how you catch them. They're going to work out just fine here. Look like it. Marcos Ambrose moved up the hill there and gave the bottom to the leaders. Good move.
Now that's Ambrose with Yaley in the 46, who is right now 2 spots out of making the Daytona 500. Dick Berggren?
Jimmy Johnson's strategy had been to get toward the front pack right at the end of the race about now and then go for the win. That strategy seems to have fallen by the wayside, Mike. A big gap between these 2 cars and the rest of the pack.
And that'll be interesting to see. Can they overcome it? Or will some of these lead pairs have to get side by side for them to make up any of the 3 seconds that they are behind the leader right now?
Somebody's going to have to hit the afterburner if they get by that 17 and 29. Steve, what's going on?
DW, Kurt Busch is fast, but can he last? He just said my temps are 250, 260. I got to cool it down.
Well, he's dropping back, Steve. You got a gap between him and the leaders there, so that's probably what he's doing.
But I think you're right, Darrell. For Jimmy Johnson and A.J. Allmendinger, the 48 and the 43, to make it back up there as we're coming now to 7 to go, that group up there will have to really start mixing it up.
Yeah, they're going to have to race a little bit at the front. They seem to be nibbling away a little bit at their lead, but I don't think they're going to have time. I think they're going to run out of laps.
Yeah, that pair is now 3.8 seconds off the lead.
And they just swapped. Jimmy Johnson has just gotten in front. We'll see if that picks them up any or not.
18 lead changes so far. That is a record for lead changes in a duel since we went to the 150-mile format in 2005. Bill Elliott back at the transfer spot ahead of Conway and Nemechek, who continue to draft together. There they are. Both those cars owned by Joe Nemechek. And they have stayed glued together the whole way. Nemechek would make the race on speed, and Conway would race his way in the way things stand right now.
And right now, Kevin Conway is about a half a straightaway ahead of J.J. Yaley in that 46 car, who actually just went a lap down.
There's Yaley down to the inside as the leaders go by. Things are heating up front. It'll be 5 laps to go. Kenseth Harvick, Kane Montoya. Sounds like political season. Who's your running mate?
Well, all I know is when I look at this top 4, it reminds me of what we saw roughly with about 5 laps to go in the Budweiser shootout on Saturday night.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see anybody go below the yellow line today.
No, but I would say they're not going to be content to finish like they are right now.
Somewhere cheering for Bill Elliott is Michael Waltrip, because if Elliott races his way in, that allows one more spot for someone to get in the 500 on speed, and the next man to move up that ladder would be Michael.
Whoa, what happened here now? Something happened off of 2 over there. There is no way that Kenseth and Harvick wanted to give up that inside and lose the lead like this. That's a bad move right there.
Not only did they give it up to the 4 and the 42, they gave it up to Kurt Busch in the 22 and Regan Smith in the 78. Now these 4.
Yellow.
Caution on the
I wanted you to
speedway.
block, Mike. I needed to know that before they got into it.
One car smoking down on the apron of turn 4.
That's Kenseth telling his spotter he needed to know what was going on there before it happened.
And that Michael McDowell.
Michael McDowell, he's driving the MRO car there. That's our Motor Racing Outreach, our ministry here at the track. Michael's a good little kid. I hate that for him.
McDowell will not make the Daytona 500.
See what happened here, Mike, because all of a sudden Casey Kane and Montoya got a run up the inside here, and I can't believe they didn't block them. I mean, we're coming to the, last 2 or 3 laps of the race. You can't let them have the inside like that.
You heard Matt Kenseth tell Mike Kalanoff, his spotter, you've got to anticipate a little more on me.
Bad strategy.
Caution with 4 laps to go. Casey Kane, the new leader. Glendale, Arizona's Michael McDowell, driving for Phil Parsons and Randy Humphreys, will pull the 66 to the garage. That's what put us under this caution flag that will set up a green-white checker shootout to finish off this Gatorade Duel. And when they line up double file for the restart, nobody has the same partner they had when we went to caution. That'll shake things up quite a bit.
Mike, as I watched that pass over there off of turn 2, I got to thinking real quick, maybe Matt Kenseth didn't see the Montoya car coming. Maybe because Harvick was right up behind him, he couldn't see him, and he eased up a little bit and opened the bottom, and here they came. Let's maybe listen in and see if they can tell us.
Hard to see there, Mike, but just the best you can do there to get their momentum, because you got to spot the 29 just like we're locked together, so. And you lose your run so fast, once he was stuck out there, I needed to make that block quicker, to get in front of him there. So, I mean, it was only a split second before I knew. I'm just telling you, so you know.
That's really interesting, Darrell, because he's telling his spotter, you can't spot just for me. You've got to spot for the pair of us together.
Exactly. And after I looked at that one time, I said he must have not known they were coming up the inside. They'd been looking outside. All of a sudden, they opened that bottom up just that teeny bit, and here they came.
All right, a big change in the race for the transfer spot. J.J. Yaley gets the free pass on this caution. That moves him back onto the lead lap. And he will restart back there with Kevin Conway and Joe Nemechek, who along with Bill Elliott are trying to race their way into the 500. McDowell's in the garage. Blaney's still on track, but he is a lap down. So here's Yaley, whose only chance to make the race is to race his way in today. His speed will not be good enough to fall back on to get a place in the 500 field.
Mike,
well, go ahead, Jeff.
What I'm hearing right now, listen to some of these teams and the way they're trying to communicate. Look for these guys once again. They're all looking for a new dance partner, but I'm already hearing some deals being made between the 17 of Matt Kenseth and Kevin Harvick for these guys once they drop the green flag to try to allow Kevin to get across the nose of the 17 and get rehooked back up. They love running together, and they feel like that's possibly a winning combination for both of them, and they'll settle it coming to the checker flag.
Thanks, Jeff. Darrell, if you're Casey Kane, well, looks like he's made his choice for the outside, so he will choose Regan Smith as a drafting partner on that outside line.
And that's because they've been working together for quite some time here, and they actually, they know they can run well together. I think that Kurt Busch, again, on the inside there behind Montoya, that's going to be a tough combination to beat.
All right, more strategy. Steve.
Well, Mike, here's what we're hearing on the radio. Expect Casey Kane in the 4 and Juan Pablo Montoya in the 42 to hook up. But I will say we are hearing a lot of indecision here between spotters and drivers. But right now, solid game plan, the 4 and the 42 hooking up.
And this is just the first of 2 races today. Tomorrow, the world's toughest trucks hit the high banks for their season opener on the new track surface. Once the green flag drops, watch for 3 wide and full throttle action with the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series from Daytona tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on Speed.
Mike, I just don't believe you've got time to swap, from inside to outside. I believe the best bet you got here is the 4 car of Kane and the 78 of Regan Smith. They got to work together. If they're gonna win this race, they're gonna have to push each other. Don't look for somebody different. We're only gonna have 2 laps.
I think I was just sitting here thinking the same thing. You try to start hunting a partner that's worked with you well earlier in the race. 2 laps is going to go by in a hurry. It's only 5 miles.
J.J. Yaley's only hope might be to tack on to Brian Vickers, because you know that Conway and Nemechek will work together to get both of those cars in the race. It's all going to play out here in the next 2 laps as we go green, white, checker to settle the first of the Gatorade Duel.
Just wonder about 05 time back there. He's not been making a lot of noise. He's been given a second chance here. Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car.
He's in 7th.
Look, Larry, you know what he's doing? He just swapped his radio over there to, he must have been talking to one of his teammates. But I really believe the restart here, if the 4 and the 78 get a good start, 78 doesn't.
4 does.
And there goes the 4 right down in front of the 42.
Well, he goes down, picks up Montoya, while Busch and Smith are together again.
Yeah, Regan just got a terrible restart there, and that hurt his chances of hooking up with the 4 car.
So maybe everybody got their drafting partners back, including Harvick and Kenseth.
Maybe it's better this way.
We're about to find out.
We will.
Jimmy is a lonely man, and this is why.
How about those 2 teammates there? Mark Martin in the 5, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88. They're back in the picture here.
If I was Ryan Newman, though, and I looked in my mirror and I saw Tony Stewart, I said, man, that's the way we started. I don't know if there's a good idea or not.
Kurt Busch and Regan Smith, they've been the most potent of the drafting duos in this race, and they'll face the white flag this time.
I think what people are learning right here, right now, is that Regan Smith is a good guy to get hooked up with.
And Darrell, I don't think they have a choice but to stay like that till we get well off turn 4. I don't think they can start mixing it up too early.
Dinger through the middle. Allmendinger coming with Menard. Threads the needle, looking for 3rd place.
And look at Ryan Newman and Tony Stewart, but they have nowhere to go. They had a head of steam, had to back off.
Transfer spot, Elliott and Yaley ahead of Nemechek and Conway now.
What will Regan Smith do in that 78 car coming to the tri-oval?
I tell you what he's going to do. He's going to push, push, push.
Well, he's got enough room to look out and try to win it, but he's steaming along. It's going to be Kurt Busch.
Whoa, he looked, but he couldn't do it. Oh!
You got it, baby.
He gave it a gallant effort.
He did. I was really surprised he even took a look, but yay to him.
Kurt Busch is 2 for 2. And racing their way into the 500 is J.J. Yaley from Phoenix, Arizona. He had 1 shot to make the race, and he made the most of it. He and Bill Elliott will transfer in.
Got the free pass on that last caution. They came to pit road. I think they made an adjustment on the race car, and he's going to race in Daytona 500.
Now that also means that Elliott will not have to fall back on his qualifying speed. That will put Michael Waltrip into a guaranteed spot.
Good for him.
Based on his qualifying speed. What a move for Yaley. Got the free pass, found himself a partner, and he'll be in the Great American Race on Sunday as Kurt Busch will go to victory lane for the 2nd time this week. The run to the checkered flag, where Regan Smith pushes Kurt Busch all the way to the exit of turn 4 and then steaming along. Tries the right, tries the left, pulls out and gets a hard-fought, hard-won 2nd place. Kurt Busch, the winner. And the other big winner is J.J. Yaley. As Yaley working along there with the 36 of Dave Blaney, though Blaney was a lap down. J.J. Yaley is going to be in the Daytona 500. Down to victory lane, Steve Burns.
And Kurt Busch has just taken off the seatbelts, and tell you what, this race team is really making a statement, a win in the Budweiser shootout and then the Gatorade Duel. Kurt, you guys are really putting it on the field here. How much confidence do you have after this win looking towards Sunday?
Well, this is just an incredible speed week, so I just don't want it to end. I want to make sure we keep doing everything right, and it's just amazing to be able to do this in a double deuce right now. With Shell Pennzoil and our Dodge, to find the right drafting partners out there to make different things happen, you're learning every lap. There's always something to absorb and something to check out. So I just got to thank everybody that's part of this program, all of our associate sponsors. Coca-Cola, they came on board. This is sweet. Got guys like AAA, Lennox, Snap-on Tools, Discount Tire, a bunch of guys. But Sprint, thanks for having us for us here.
Kurt, biggest lesson learned today?
It's amazing what partnerships can do out on the racetrack. And when 2 guys can think the same way without saying a word, things are going to happen for those two guys. So Regan Smith, thanks to him, Keselowski, my teammate, all the stuff we tested and testing during December and January, it's coming to fruit. So thanks a lot, and Tech Heuer. Sunny day out today. This is great. Love it. Thanks, guys.
Congratulations, Kurt.
Appreciate it.
Chris Devoda.
The sun is shining on Kurt Busch today. Let's take a look at the Gatorade G Series results from dual race number 1. And Jeff, he mentioned his normal partner, Brad Keselowski, not in this field. Regan Smith was his partner today.
This guy can work with anybody, and Regan Smith right now was an excellent, partner for him, and they worked together all day long. It was just incredible.
And obviously a lot of these guys learning things, partnering up for Sunday's Daytona 500. The other winners in this race, they didn't go to victory lane, but Bill Elliott, we knew he was locked in. J.J. Yaley will race in the Daytona 500. We'll be back. We'll hear from some of those celebrating. There you see drivers who were in race number 1, and there is the winning car getting pushed. Kurt Busch wins number 1. Speed's coverage of the duel at Daytona is brought to you by Napa. Napa Know-How. By DirecTV. Don't just watch TV, DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV. And by Gillette Fusion Pro Glide. Turns shaving into gliding and skeptics into believers. Aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. For the most sports period, call 1-800-DirecTV. There you see a very happy Steve Addington crew chief. Kurt Busch, the driver. You know, before this weekend, he had never been to victory lane for a plate race. He's already been there twice during this Speed Weeks. From one winner to another, Dick Berggren is with J.J. Yaley,
who has raced his way into the Daytona 500. How big a deal is this, man?
This is huge. Obviously for the sponsor, International Redline Oil, Chevrolet was, it wasn't as good as obviously we hoped when we came down here, but I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for Marcus Ambrose, DeWalt, whoever he has for his sponsors, because he was a heck of a pusher. He stuck with me the entire race, and I learned from the start that on a restart, it didn't matter what it was, you were better to be by yourself, and it took almost 2 laps before the train race would take off, and I just had to keep the 97, the 87 separated there as we were coming to the green, and I had to fight Nemechek off. We beat on each other way down the back straightaway, but it was enough that it cost them almost a half lap before they got locked in there, and believe me, this is a relief off my shoulders, this entire team, because we got the Speedway engine about 2 weeks ago. It's been a mad thrash, and to put it in the biggest race of the year is it's awesome.
Congratulations, you've earned your way into the Daytona 500. Matt?
Dick, a dual debrief between Hendrick teammates of Martin, Johnson, and Jr. An animated conversation between the three of you. What did you guys learn from Duel 1?
We got to get a little more speed, but I feel like that we had a pretty good little opportunity there right before we pitted. When the pitting started to happen, I found myself to be the odd man out without a partner, and we needed to come on pit road, but we ran about 2 or 3 more laps trying to figure out what to do. I was trying to find a partner until they called me to pit road, and I was just losing a lot of time to the leaders, and we learned something there. And after that, we just tried to race as hard as we could. I tried at winning that race on a green-white checkered wasn't very good, but we were going to, we put our foot down and see what we could do. But the cars, we need to find a little more speed on the car. Guys are able to run a little bit longer than we are in without swapping. We need to find a little bit better deal on the cooling. We got some homework to do, but we've been working really hard. I got these guys so far behind with them 2 wrecks that we've had this week, and but we're climbing back.
All right, good luck on Sunday.
Thank you.
Dale Jr. was told before the race to have fun. His boss, Rick Hendrick, told him to learn something, and he said that is exactly what they did. Of course, Kurt Busch, his team, they have learned that they are Daytona winners twice in 1 weekend so far. We'll have more here from the duel next. In last year's Gatorade Duel, tires were the story. This year it's not tread, but teamwork in the 2-car tango that led Kurt Busch to victory lane. Chris Devoda alongside Jeff Hammond. We learned a lot in Gatorade Duel race number 1.
That's right. I told you, teamwork, not teammates.
You did. Over and over, you told me.
Right.
Let's go ahead, if we can, take a look at the highlights and show you what transpired in that race number 1. As we mentioned, I know, teamwork, not teammates. Right. We had a lot of big star power. Jimmy Johnson in this race with his number 1 fan. That's daughter Genevieve. Kurt Busch. We knew he would have a fast car, but Jeff, we saw some early action, lap 2.
I told you, not teammates, but teamwork. And right here, Ryan Newman gets spun out by his teammate, Tony Stewart, because of the closing rate. He run up on the 5 too quick. Tony spins him around, but fortunately for both the cars, they were able to continue, got solid finishes. But here, take a look at Tony Stewart. Car runs a little bit warm. He's making a swap right in front of Mark Martin. And this is what it took all during this first duel to make it happen. But watch what happens here. Kurt Busch threads the needle with his newfound dance partner, Regan Smith, in that 78, and they pretty much showed everybody how to do the two-step the rest of this race.
And these were partnerships that were matched up the whole race, the 29, the 17, the 4 with the 42. Juan Pablo Montoya and Casey Kane liking what they can do. Strategy on the track, but Jeff's strategy off as well.
Exactly right. Mike Chiplett and Chad Knaus, they're making a plan for making a pit stop. They came in together. They worked well during the course of this race. Hey, what I tell you earlier, it's kind of like the odd couple, not teammates, the odd couple.
Well, I don't know about if we're an odd couple, but these two certainly were not. What's Regan Smith, what's going through his mind right
He's trying to win this thing on that coming to the checker flag. He realized I can't go below that double yellow line. What does he do? He makes a move to the outside. Great run by this young man, that 78 car. But guess what? Kurt Busch now, two-time winner here early in Speed Weeks here at Daytona.
Already. And you know Regan Smith was thinking back to that Talladega. This means, by the way, Kurt Busch will now lead the field to green in Sunday's Daytona 500 on Fox, because with what happened to Dale Earnhardt Jr., he has to go to the back. Kurt Busch is he's the man.
He really is. And right now, can you believe how Roger Penske is feeling over there? They made all these swaps around there with sponsors and putting Kurt in a 22. And all of a sudden, I mean, everything is just falling in line for these guys. And understand that there's only 2 Dodges in the field right now.
And, you know, we said we learned a lot. Rick Hendrick told Dale Earnhardt Jr. to learn a lot. What about his teammate, Jeff Gordon? He is in the next race, and Steve Burns is with him.
All right, thanks, Krista. Jeff, you've been racing here since 1993, and things are a lot different here at Daytona. What did you learn watching the first duel?
Oh, that was amazing. You know, I think that's a race I've been really waiting for, and I think I learned a lot. You know, I'm still shocked that the 17 was able to push as long as he did. I think that was one of the big things that we were looking at. I hope we can figure out how to get some air to the nose like those guys were. But, you know, I'm not sure who my drafted partner is going to be yet either. I think those Childress cars behind me are going to try to get together. And so there was a lot of interesting aspects to that race. But I'm excited about our Drive to End Hunger Chevrolet. We've got a fast race car, a great race team, and we're going to work hard and try to keep it up front.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Gordon, the only Hendrick car in this race number 2. Today, more than 6 million older Americans face the threat of hunger. Join Jeff Gordon, AARP, and AARP Foundation in the Drive to End Hunger by visiting drivetoendhunger.org. We heard Jeff Gordon talk about what he learned. He is sort of a odd man out, at least the only Hendrick teammate. He worked a lot in the Bud Shootout with Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick already raced. Who's he going to match up with?
Does it matter? Pick you one. I mean, that's the thing right now. Why think you've got to have a teammate to be successful? We know we've got a lot of Joe Gibbs cars in this race, but if you look at odd man out, there's 3 Gibbs cars in this thing. Means somebody is not going to have a dance partner. So you're going to have to look around, and that's what Jeff needs to do early on. I think the odd part about this thing, or the wild card, has to be Trevor Bayne up there on that front row. He's a rookie. You don't know when they drop the green flag. What is he going to do? What are they going to do with him? Are they going to try to shake him and shuffle him to the back, and how will that work?
And we've been laughing a little bit at his expense because he's been so eager all weekend. He's been the first guy out on the grid for qualifying, the first guy in the garage in practice. So you know he is ready to go.
He's 19 years old. He better be ready to go.
We also have 3 Michael Waltrip, all 3 Michael Waltrip racing cars in this field. In duel number 2, Michael Waltrip has already been locked into the 500. There is young Trevor Bayne. Gatorade Duel Race 2 is next.